So imagine strapping this piece of aerospace-grade titanium to your wrist, diving like 45 meters underwater, and then get this, not having to charge the battery for an entire month.
Oh, man, yeah.
Right. And now imagine paying, roughly half of what Garmin usually charges for that exact same privilege. So today, we're taking a deep dive into a piece of hardware that is actively trying to, rewrite the rules of the GPS sports watch market. We're talking about the newly released Amazfit T-Rex Ultra 2.
It's honestly a really aggressive piece of technology. I mean, the smartwatch market, especially the whole rugged outdoor segment, it's been dominated by a few major players for a long time.
Yeah, totally.
And they've essentially just set the pricing rules for the last decade, but we're entering this phase of massive disruption, and this watch is at the absolute center of it.
Absolutely. And, we're thrilled you could join us today to unpack all of this because our mission today is laser focused. We are evaluating whether the T-Rex Ultra 2 is really the ultimate new wrist companion for you adventurers and weekend warriors out there, or, and this is the big question, if it's just an incredibly durable, overpriced beta test.
Right, right.
And to get to the truth, we are drawing exclusively from two of the most rigorous, independent tech reviewers in the entire industry.
Because, if you want to know how a sports watch actually performs out in the real world, you don't look at the manufacturer's spec sheet. You just don't.
No, of course not.
You look at the data from people who actually stress test these devices to their absolute limits.
Exactly. So first up, we're pulling from one of the most technically detailed and independently tested reviews available, which is based on about a month of real-world testing from the 5krunner.com.
Such a great site.
It really is.
Yeah.
And second, we're bringing in an exceptionally thorough and rigorous review from dcrainmaker.com. Both of these reviewers put the Ultra 2 through absolute torture on the trails, the roads, the water, basically so that you don't have to risk your own $549 figuring it out yourself.
Yeah, they really do the hard work. And, that $549 price tag is exactly why we're here today. Because for that kind of money, Amazfit is claiming to offer military-grade hardware, full scuba diving certification, and a battery life that honestly seems to defy the laws of physics.
Sounds kind of unreal. So is it time for you to finally ditch your current watch? Well, let's start with the physical reality of this device because, before you even turn it on, physically, this watch is making a massive statement.
Massive is definitely the operative word here.
Yeah.
DCRainmaker.com actually called it the biggest watch Amazfit has ever released.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're looking at a 51mm case, and with the strap, it weighs almost 89 grams.
That is heavy.
Right. To put that in perspective for you, a standard plastic running watch usually weighs around 40 to 50 grams. So this is a big jump. It's actually 15 grams heavier than Amazfit's previous model, the T-Rex 3 Pro. They even had to increase the strap width to 26 millimeters just to distribute the sheer bulk across your wrist.
Honestly, looking at those dimensions, it feels like you're strapping a tiny titanium tank right to your arm.
Pretty much.
But it's not just bulky plastic,
Yeah.
And the materials here are where the story gets really, really interesting.
Yeah, they are using grade 5 titanium for both the bezel and the back panel, and we should probably explain why that actually matters.
Yeah, definitely.
Because grade 5 isn't just some marketing buzzword, it's an alloy made of titanium, aluminum, and vanadium. It's literally the exact same stuff used in aerospace engineering and, jet engine turbines.
Oh, wow. Jet engines.
Yeah, because it has an incredibly high strength-to-weight ratio. It's vastly superior to the cheaper, grade 2 titanium you see in a lot of lower-end watches, which just scratches super easily.
Right. And then they paired that with scratch-resistant sapphire crystal glass for the screen, which is, second only to diamond in the Mohs hardness scale?
Exactly.
Plus, it's certified for 45-meter scuba diving. They didn't just slap a basic water-resistant sticker on this thing. It actually passed the EN 13399 standard for diving accessories.
It did, and it was tested to extreme U.S. military standards for shock, freezing temperatures, humidity. It's built to survive environments that would honestly probably kill the person wearing it.
Which is comforting, I guess. And speaking of surviving, in extreme conditions, DCRainmaker.com pointed out a really specific hardware swap. Amazfit took out the secondary red LED flashlight that was on their previous models and replaced it with a green one.
Right, the green light.
Yeah, and they claim this green light gives you better compatibility if you're wearing night vision goggles.
Night vision goggles.
I know. Hold on. For the average weekend warrior listening to this, you are not conducting tactical night vision raids in the suburbs.
Probably not.
I mean, sure, the green light preserves your eye's natural night vision because it doesn't bleach the rhodopsin in your retinas, but
Yeah.
let's be real here. Mostly, you're just using that flashlight to find the bathroom at 2 a.m. without stepping on the dog or, waking up your partner.
That is so true. The night vision goggle claim is definitely playing to a very specific tactical fantasy. But if we pull back a bit and look at the actual market strategy, the titanium, the sapphire glass, the military specs, this is Amazfit deliberately trying to undercut those premium Garmin Fenix models.
Oh, for sure.
Because Garmin charges upwards of like $800 to $1,000 for that exact same tier of physical durability. And Amazfit is offering the same aerospace materials for just $549.
But here's the thing. An indestructible titanium case is entirely useless if the screen goes black halfway through your weekend camping trip in the mountains.
So true.
You've got this beautiful, bright 1.5-inch AMOLED screen, which, historically speaking, is a total battery vampire.
Right.
So how does the battery life actually hold up when you're out in the wild?
It holds up exceptionally well, actually. Amazfit claims up to 30 days of typical smartwatch use and 50 hours of continuous high-accuracy GPS tracking.
Wow.
Yeah. And what's crucial here is that the real-world tests from our sources validate those lab numbers. DCRainmaker.com took it on these long, multi-hour trail runs, leaving the always-on display active and running full navigation, and he recorded an incredibly low battery burn rate of just 2% to 2.6% per hour.
That is, it's practically a software optimization miracle. You could run a 100-mile ultra marathon, keep the screen glowing the entire time, and not even have to think about a charger.
Exactly. When you're pushing a bright AMOLED screen, lighting up millions of individual pixels, and simultaneously using the processor to render topographic maps dynamically as you move, usually, the battery just plummets.
Right.
Sustaining a 2% drain under those conditions is a massive engineering win.
Which brings us directly to the core argument from the 5krunner.com. They matched this watch up against the Garmin Instinct 3. So the Instinct 3 costs $499. The T-Rex Ultra 2 is $549. And for that extra $50, the 5krunner.com argues the T-Rex completely outclasses the Garmin.
Yeah, they were pretty definitive about that.
They were, because the Instinct 3 has this basic low-power screen and absolutely no maps. But the T-Rex Ultra 2 gives you that brilliant AMOLED display and full offline contour maps.
And it's not just that it displays maps, right? It has 64 gigabytes of internal storage.
It's a lot for a watch.
It really is. It comes with global base wraps natively preloaded right out of the box, and you can download highly detailed contour and ski maps for free.
So if you have a strict hard budget of exactly $550 for an adventure watch, it's really hard to justify buying a watch that just shows you a blank screen with a little line pointing north when you could get one that shows you the actual topography of the mountain you're standing on.
I mean, mapping is the great differentiator in the outdoor watch market right now. Rendering maps requires expensive hardware. You need significant memory to store the terrain data and a powerful GPU to redraw the map smoothly every single time you turn your wrist.
Right.
By packing all that hardware in and offering offline mapping at a mid-tier price point, Amazfit is just aggressively shifting the baseline expectations for the entire industry.
Okay, so you've got this indestructible titanium watch, you've got battery for days, and you're looking at a beautiful offline map. You feel like a true explorer. But, and this is a big but, if the sensors feeding your location into those maps are inaccurate, the whole illusion just shatters.
Oh, completely.
You're just a person lost in the woods with a very expensive piece of jewelry. So how accurate is the T-Rex Ultra 2 when it comes to the actual data?
Well, let's split the sensor accuracy into two distinct categories: GPS tracking and heart rate monitoring. On the GPS front, the technology here is excellent. It uses dual-band GPS. Yeah, and for those who aren't familiar, older watches only connected to the L1 satellite frequency. If a tall building or like a cliff face blocked that signal, the watch would guess your location, and usually it guessed poorly.
We've all been there.
Right. But dual band connects to both L1 and the newer, stronger L5 frequency simultaneously. It's kind of like tuning a radio to two different stations playing the exact same song. If a mountain blocks one, the other still catches the tune. It essentially eliminates those multipath errors where the signal bounces off a rock and makes the watch think you ran straight through a solid wall.
And the reviewers found that this implementation works brilliantly in practice. DCRainmaker.com noted the GPS was spot on, perfectly matching the tracks of top-tier, much more expensive watches from Garmin and Synthesise. And that was even in incredibly tricky environments like tunnels and dense city streets.
Yeah, and the 5krunner.com completely validated this with their grueling, decade-long standard GPS test route.
Oh yeah, that test is brutal.
It is. And out of the 160 watches they've tested over the years, the T-Rex Ultra 2 scored a highly respectable 83%, ranking 24th overall. That puts it firmly in the upper echelon of reliable trackers. They did find one minor algorithmic quirk, though.
Oh, what kind of quirk?
Under heavy tree cover, the watch has a tendency to draw tracks slightly parallel to your actual path.
Oh, I see. So if you're running on a trail, the map might show you running like 6 feet to the left inside a bush.
Exactly.
It's a quirk with how the watch smooths out the data points, but it's not going to get you hopelessly lost.
Precisely. It's minor. However, and this is a big pivot, the heart rate performance is a completely different and honestly much more frustrating story.
Yeah.
Both reviewers explicitly highlighted the optical heart rate sensor as a major weak point. DCRainmaker.com bluntly stated that the sensor just loses the plot at times during workouts.
And saying a biometric sensor loses the plot is essentially the worst review it could possibly get.
Basically, yeah.
The 5krunner.com dug into the data and got very specific about when this actually happens. They found the watch struggles immensely during the warm-up phase of a workout.
Right.
For the first several minutes of a run, it shows these sharp drops and massive deviations before it finally settles into an accurate rhythm. It's exactly like a grumpy morning runner. It needs a solid 10-minute warm-up and a metaphorical cup of coffee before it actually starts paying attention to its job.
That's a perfect way to describe it. To understand why it's so grumpy, you have to look at how the technology works. These are optical sensors, right? They use photoplethysmography.
That's a mouthful.
Try saying that 3 times fast. They shine a green light into your skin and measure the light that bounces back to detect the expansion of your blood vessels with every single heartbeat.
Okay, makes sense.
But when you first start running, especially if it's cold outside, your body undergoes vasoconstriction. It pulls blood away from your extremities, like your wrist, to keep your core warm.
Oh, so less blood at the wrist.
Exactly. Less blood volume in the wrist makes it incredibly hard for the sensor to read your pulse until you start sweating and your blood vessels finally dilate.
But wait, every optical watch deals with vasoconstriction, right?
Yeah.
The best brands use algorithms to filter out the bad data during that warm-up phase. So it sounds like Amazfit's algorithm just isn't there yet.
That's exactly it.
And what is the real-world consequence of that? Like, why does a 10-minute grumpy sensor matter if it figures it out eventually?
It matters massively because of how fitness ecosystems calculate your training load. Modern watches use algorithms to determine your EPOC excess post-exercise oxygen consumption.
Right.
They look at your heart rate to tell you how much strain you put on your body and how many hours you need to recover. So, if your watch falsely records your heart rate at 170 beats per minute for the first 10 minutes of a light jog, it artificially drags your entire workout average way up.
Oh, I see. So the watch might tell you that you're drastically overtraining and need 3 days of rest, all because the sensor was just cold for the first mile. For serious athletes who train strictly by heart rate zones, having compromised data at the start of every session essentially renders those advanced recovery metrics useless.
It completely corrupts the entire dataset. And this leads us directly to the biggest red flag raised by both of our sources.
Here we go.
You have premium, aerospace-grade hardware, phenomenal battery, great GPS, but the software execution, particularly the features of Amazfit, is heavily marketing to justify that $549 price tag is just severely lacking.
Yeah, the software bugs. Let's talk about the shattered illusion here. Amazfit heavily promoted a new Climb Pro-like feature for this watch. And if you're a hiker or a trail runner, Climb Pro is normally magic.
Oh, it's the best.
You load a route into your watch, and it parses the topography to automatically slice your route into individual hills. When you hit a hill, a screen pops up showing you the exact gradient, how far to the top, and basically how much suffering you have left. It's an incredible pacing tool.
It is, when it works. But DCRainmaker.com points out that on the Ultra 2, the feature is fundamentally broken right out of the box. Yeah. It simply fails to identify most of the climbs on a loaded route.
The watch literally had one job.
Yeah.
Find the hill. You are standing at the bottom of a literal mountain, and the watch is essentially saying, looks flat to me. I mean, if it skips the climbs, the feature is entirely useless.
Completely useless. And the software issues extend to the core navigation as well. Despite having those gorgeous, high-resolution offline maps we talked about, the actual turn-by-turn routing has serious woes.
Uh-oh.
DCRainmaker.com experienced incredibly wonky behavior. The watch would randomly generate routes starting 1.7 kilometers away from his actual physical location.
What? That makes no sense.
Or, when approaching a standard intersection on a trail, it would give bizarre turn prompts, like instructing him to turn rear right.
Turn rear right. Sounds like you're trying to do a complicated line dance in the middle of a forest.
Yeah.
And the weirdness bleeds into the user interface, too. When you try to save a waypoint on a map, the preset categories the watch offers you include things like airport and household. I don't know about your weekend adventures, but I don't typically hike to an international airport in the middle of the woods.
It's a glaring lack of polish. It really feels like software designed for a city smartwatch that was hastily ported over to an outdoor adventure watch without being properly adapted. Which brings us to the core pricing paradox of the T-Rex Ultra 2.
Yeah.
It costs $549. But the previous model, the T-Rex 3 Pro, is still available for only $399. Both reviewers strongly question whether upgrading to a titanium back panel, swapping a red flashlight for a green one, and adding a slightly bigger battery truly justifies a massive $150 price hike,
Right.
especially when the flagship software features you are supposedly paying for are unfinished at launch.
Wait, hold on. Why should you, as a consumer, pay $550 today for a piece of hardware that relies entirely on the promise of a future firmware update to fix basic features like identifying a hill?
It's a great question.
I mean, Amazfit told the reviewers they're aware of the bugs and they'll fix them eventually. But as DCRainmaker.com noted, Amazfit has a history of promising software fixes for previous watches that still haven't materialized. Why has paying full premium price to be an unpaid beta tester become the standard in the tech industry?
It's an incredibly frustrating reality, and honestly, it exposes Amazfit's current brand identity crisis. Historically, Amazfit has dominated the budget tier. They are brilliant at manufacturing high-quality physical hardware for $200 or $300.
They really are.
But when you ask for $549, you are firmly crossing out of the budget tier and into the premium tier. And in the premium tier, consumers aren't just paying for titanium and sapphire glass, they are paying for algorithmic trust.
Ah, the Garmin tax.
Exactly. When you pay $800 for a high-end Garmin, you aren't just buying the physical watch. You are paying for 15 years of software refinement. You are paying for a seamless, mature ecosystem where the heart rate sensor works in the cold, the training load algorithms are medically validated, and the map doesn't tell you to turn rear right into a tree.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Amazfit has achieved parity on the physical hardware, but they are still years behind on the software ecosystem.
So we've waded through the titanium, the massive battery life, the grumpy heart rate sensors, and the wonky software. What does this all mean for you trying to decide what to actually strap to your wrist for your next adventure? Based on the rigorous testing from DCRainmaker.com and the 5krunner.com, the final verdict is remarkably balanced, but it completely depends on your specific priorities.
It really does. Look, if you are drawn to rugged, aerospace-grade titanium, you want an AMOLED screen with incredibly detailed offline maps, you want a battery that lasts for weeks, and your budget is exactly $550. The T-Rex Ultra 2 undeniably beats the Garmin Instinct 3 in a pure hardware comparison.
Without a doubt.
The Instinct simply doesn't have the maps or the screen to compete at that specific price point.
However, if you care deeply about perfectly reliable training data, if you want bug-free navigation straight out of the box, or if you rely on features like streaming Spotify without your phone, you are still much better off saving up for a higher-end Garmin.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Alternatively, if you just want that rugged Amazfit physical experience, but you want to keep some cash in your pocket, you're probably better off buying the older T-Rex 3 Pro for $399. You lose the titanium and a tiny bit of battery life, but you save $150 and avoid the premium price tag of unfinished software.
It ultimately requires an honest assessment of what you will actually rely on when you are alone on a trail versus what simply looks impressive on a specification sheet.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We really hope digging into these reviews help clear the muddy waters of the smartwatch market for you. But before you go, we want to leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Oh, I like where this is going.
As smartwatch hardware reaches a plateau, where almost every major brand can now source grade 5 titanium, scratch-proof sapphire glass, and brilliant AMOLED screens, the physical components of the watch are no longer the main battlefield. So, will the tech wars of the next decade shift entirely away from the physical watch itself?
That's a fascinating question.
Right. Ultimately, the winner will be the brand with the toughest bezel. It will be the brand with the smartest, most reliable AI analyzing your biometric data in the background, turning your raw heartbeats and sleep cycles into actual trustworthy coaching. Just some food for thought. We'll see you next time.